pew, 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 pew. I mean, it is kind of fun. It kind of catches the attention of what we're doing on that, but completely different than our podcast one, which is 25 seconds, and that one is 7. Although no, the rocket on our podcast is 3 seconds. So, hey, it's Thaddeus and Evan. I'm Thaddeus. He's Evan, and we are On Purpose Media, also known as HVAC Success Secrets Revealed to most people on this platform. But of course, we're doing it on Purpose Media today and kicking it that style because, well, we have our marketing company, and we always like to, on our podcast, give as much focus for our guests to be able to help you guys up level your business from others that have been doing it before. But what often gets forgotten on there is our expertise in running a marketing company and helping home service companies, plumbing, HVAC, specifically grow their business.
Electrical.
And so, electrical, solar, those sorts of home services, carpet installation, various ones that are in and around that. And this is what this webinar series are designed for on a month-by-month basis. I'm super excited to get into auditing your digital marketing agency. A prime topic, I believe, for right now, when you think about the space in HVAC and plumbing and what's happening, well, it's the slow season. It's and it's a lot of movement happens from a digital marketing perspective in either sticking with or changing your digital marketing agency or hiring a new one. And what better time than going over auditing your marketing agency to see if they are doing a good enough job or not. And if you do decide to switch, what are some things that you can leverage and ask them about to make sure that you're making the right decision for your business?
No, absolutely. And a lot of people have asked us about slow seasons, and I've had conversations with people around slow seasons. And I mean, let's face it, at this time of year, unless it's an emergency call, most people don't want to get into the renovation work, even with a less seasonal business like a plumbing or an electrical company. You still have downtimes this time of year because people just don't want to do the work when the holidays are coming. Their focus is elsewhere, their spending is elsewhere. So now is a great time to dive into your business and look at what are the ways that we can get more efficient. And at a time when we spent the last couple months looking backwards in terms of what went well this last year, what can we improve on, what are our goals as we move forward into the new year. Now's the time to start taking action on that and start implementing some of those strategies. So excited for the chat today.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited for it. And there's one topic that I'm probably going to get on a rant again because it happened last week to me specifically on an onboarding call. So, but we'll go over that. So, all right. So today, the accountability blueprint essentials for auditing your digital marketing agency. So, what we're going to talk about, I've kind of already talked a lot about this already. I will do a little bit more about us, the role of digital marketing agencies. Some of these we may get to, some of these we may not get to, some of them we're going to gloss over, some of them we're going to go deeper on. By the way, I will say this, if you're watching live or even after the fact, hit us up in the comment section with something that you question that you might have. If it's after the fact, if you're not watching live, you're watching the team replay. Hey, okay, we get it. You're running a business during the day. Drop the questions in there. We're happy to answer them. We're happy to do what we need to do there. The other one is if you ever wanted to text us, though, guess what? You can also text us your questions, 719-824-1377. Gets that answered by Evan and myself. So, all right. About us. So I'm Thaddeus. He's Evan. We are the co-founders and co-owners, co-CEOs, CMOs, whatever you want to call it, chief cook, the chef, the bottle washer, and the dishwasher all at the same time. So we own On Purpose Media. It is a digital marketing agency, been around for just over 4 years. You can tell that I'm making some of this stuff up on the spot. Hey, been around for over 4 years and serving the home services industry. We're the #1 marketing agency for home services with a flair for helping HVAC, plumbing, and electrical companies dominate their market. We also have our podcast, as I mentioned, HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, and probably combined now at this point, 20 years of actual in marketing experience of working in the field, plus a plethora of other experiences outside of the marketing field that brings and lends our experiences into running our business.
Yep.
You want anything else in there?
Nope, we're good.
Perfect. Role of digital marketing agencies. Evan, I'm curious, what do you think the role of a digital marketing agency is?
I mean, I'm a big fan of keeping it simple, stupid. So they need to get your phone to ring, right? How are they generating new customers for your business? And are they a good ear to lend for your business when it comes to strategy and things that are upcoming? And how can you remarket to your current client base? At the end of the day, their primary focus should be on attracting new customers for your business.
Perfect. I can't agree with that statement more. So, really, the big one, evaluating your current marketing agency. How do you know if they're doing a good job or not? That's a big age old question because people are, as they're tuning in, they're like, well, I don't know if they're doing a good job. Sometimes you don't even know what they're doing. There's no reporting, there's no communication, there's no conversation whatsoever on it. And so looking at some of these questions, I mean, there's a lot on here. There's 6 questions, how do you, and I'll rapid fire all the questions and then we can break down each one individually. So how do you measure the success of your campaigns? Can you provide specific examples of how our campaigns have achieved our set goals? What metrics or KPIs do you use to track progress? Can you break down the ROI or our ROAS, return on ad spend, of our current marketing campaigns? How are you managing? How are you managing the budget to maximize results? And what is your plan to help us generate more new clients during the shoulder season? So let's start off with question number 1, Evan. How do you manage the success of a marketing campaign? How do you
Well, I
measure
think
the
first
success
off,
of our campaigns? Sorry.
yeah, and I think before we can even clarify that, it's, well, what is it that we're doing for you? And if you don't know exactly what it is your marketing company is doing for you on a monthly basis, um, then nothing else matters, right? Because whatever information they give you, it might meet a metric that they're trying to track, but if it doesn't actually impact you, then what difference does it make, right? So understanding first and foremost, what is it that they're doing for you? And then how do we measure that? Well, from a marketing perspective, there needs to be certain benchmarks that need to be hit. When we're talking about Google ads, well, what's the click-through rate? What's the conversion percentage? And then ultimately for you as the home service business owner, what is our cost per acquisition? What is our cost per book call to get a job on the board? How much are we spending to get that result? And I think getting really clear on that number is going to really help set the stage for everything else. From an SEO perspective, how well is our website converting and where are we ranking? How many phone calls have we taken from our Google business profile? How many website visits are we taking from our Google business profile? Those are all things that we're looking at from that perspective in terms of, again, from a home service business owner's perspective, you don't need to get into all the nitty gritty details of Google ads if you don't want to. If you're into that and that gets you off at night, by all means, have at her. But at the end of the day, it's focusing on what is the 30,000-foot view that you need to be in charge of, which is my phone ringing? And what is the cost to get that phone to ring?
Exactly. And sometimes I think what happens when you have a marketing company, and you know what, hey, we've been guilty of this too, by the way, at our company, right, is over just giving way too much information. As you mentioned, metrics
Mhm.
to track that matter and they don't matter, right? You look at a website or even Google Ads. Okay, well, do you as an owner need to care what a click-through rate of your Google Ads are, or what your conversion rate of your Google Ads are, or what your impression share of your Google Ads are? No, you don't. And so if marketing, and look, we still send those because I think some clients and some customers still want to see that. But at the end
Right.
of the day, what actually matters. So looking at the SEO side of things, Evan, I'm curious in terms of a metric that marketing companies tend to track that they send a client that they really don't need to be.
I mean, even rankings, really, like if we really want to get very basic on it, a very basic SEO report is how well are you ranking? Well, does that actually matter to the business owner? Yes and no, because those metrics can sometimes fluctuate by the day. We just went through a season this last fall, these last 4 months, where the Google algorithm was changing so much and so quickly that the rankings were going all over the place. And depending on what day it is that you got your report on, your rankings could have been completely out of whack. And it looked like your marketing company was doing absolute dog shit. And it was a frustrating time for a lot of marketing companies. One of the things that we realized on our team was the Google Map rankings. So those grid reports that companies will send out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out my Facebook post from yesterday. There's an example of it. But it basically shows a whole bunch of dots and where it is that you're ranking on the Google Map pack. Well, Google changed their ranking factors on that. And whether or not your business is open during the hours that the search is happening will depend on whether or not you're actually going to show up. So this was new for the Google Map Pack. It's old for LSA. It's always been a part of the LSA rankings and your Google guaranteed rankings. But for the map pack, it was something that was new. So depending on what time of day that the rankings report ran, your rankings could look like absolute shit. And this happened to us where we realized it. We ran the report again another couple days later after we made some changes, and the rankings were completely back to normal. And then we took a deeper dive on it, and turns out the report just ran in the middle of the night when the customer's business was no longer open. And this is now a ranking factor on the map pack. So we actually didn't do anything wrong in the first place, but the rankings looked like dog shit. The call volume hadn't changed. So it was a baffling experience for those 2 days trying to figure out what the hell happened to that client's rankings. But that's something that is now a miscued stat or a miscued piece of information that is not as important as looking at how many calls are we taking. If your call volume doesn't dip, but your rankings did, then we're still okay in terms of call volume. Conversion data on the website. Are the visitors that are coming to our website actually converting into leads and book calls? That's another metric that a lot of marketing companies will send. Very important to the marketing company, kind of important to the business owner just to be able to measure it, but it's not something that you need to look at on a monthly basis. There's certain things that I think that a business owner needs to audit on a more quarterly, semi-annually, or annual basis of their marketing company just to make sure they're on point. But at the end of the day, taking a look at, well, where it is that it really matters for us, is your phone ringing? Are you getting jobs on the board, and how much are you paying for that?
No, great. And look, that's a couple of the other questions that we said before. We covered a lot of those, already. But one thing you mentioned is auditing your marketing company, right? So you're looking at this and in saying, okay, I'm a business owner. I'm going to put my home services business hat on. I'm going to ask, marketing company, what should I be looking at in order to be able to audit them? I mean, obviously the title is, auditing your digital marketing agency for the webinar, but, specifically in what we're talking about, you mentioned quarterly or biannually or annually. What are some of those things that a business owner should be looking at that matter for them when it comes to auditing their marketing agency?
I think on a quarterly basis, it's setting some benchmarks in terms of just book calls. How many book calls did we get on the board this last quarter? Actually, sorry, that should be a weekly and a monthly thing. Quarterly, I would be looking at, hey, where are we at in terms of our conversions coming from Google Ads, for example? What's our conversion percentage? What is our click-through rate? And what is the benchmark that we should be aiming for that? Now we at least have some sort of a metric where we can audit back. Again, as a home service company, am I looking at that on a daily basis? No. Am I looking at that on a monthly basis? Probably not. Should the marketing company? Absolutely. But you can ask those questions to be able to hold them accountable to making sure that they're hitting their benchmarks. Room for improvement on that? Always, right? We're always looking at how we can get better. Google Ads is always charging more. Their rates increase by at least 10% every single year. But again, it comes back to what is our cost per book call, and then how can we break down that metric even further looking backwards. From an SEO perspective, I'm looking at traffic. How much traffic is coming to our website? And all of that is given to us through Google Analytics. If we can see that traffic is increasing over time, we know that our SEO company is doing their job and increasing the amount of visitors coming back to our website.
That makes sense. In terms of looking at Google Ads and marketing, and we have a question, here, kind of a comment. And I want to pull that comment out and talk a little bit about it, because I think that's a big thing. This idea of, do I have my marketing company? What should I bring in house? What should I not bring in house? And looking at that specifically, and this one was, I think all comfort home providers need to in-house them ads just like they do the installers, right? And very fair and valid point, especially with some of the enhancements that Google Ads is making, smart bidding campaigns, the automatic things. It's the word responsive ads, where you're looking more like Meta now, where you put in 5 different titles and they'll just put it all together and just show it to the right person at the right time. But looking at, that concept of bringing something in-house, and I'm not going to talk about the social media component of things. I believe that at the right size of social media should be in-house, because they're going to be able to craft that message the right way, be able to do it, handle it, get the pictures, get the images, get the videos, put it out there, be part of the community, those sorts of things that a marketing agency will never be able to do. Looking at ads, how can one I guess what are some if you wanted to have that or you wanted to look at that, and maybe we're going off the topic a little bit here in terms of auditing your marketing agency, but looking at that, what would you tell somebody that might be looking at bringing their ads in-house?
Well, I mean, it's similar to, are you outsourcing your bookkeeping, or are you having your bookkeeping in-house? Are you outsourcing your accounting, or are you having your accounting in-house? The idea of bringing a marketer in-house, the salary that is going to be required to pay that person, likely going to be at least north of $3,000 a month, to get someone that's qualified. If they're less qualified, then you can pay them less, but you better know what you're talking about so you can properly train them. Because YouTube University is not going to be a good enough education for someone that you want running that in-house for you. So when you weigh the cost versus the benefit of that, I think that's where a lot of companies, it just doesn't make sense for them. And then also, are you outsourcing just the SEO then, and you're running ads in-house? And if so, well, does that ads person really need to be in there full time? That's a big question that I would have in terms of that. If you're running $100,000 a month on Google ads, then yeah, you need someone paying attention to that, because any missed opportunities there is a massive loss. If you're only spending $2, $3, $5, $10,000 a month on your Google ads, then bringing that in house is probably not going to be necessary, because you don't need to be touching the account as often, because a missed click here is not the end of the world for you when it's only $60. But that's, your 10% or 1% of your budget was just missed based off of a $6,000 a month ad spend, whereas 1% of your budget on $100,000 a month, well, that's 10 grand that just went out the door. Or sorry, $1,000 it just went out the door. Fast
Math is difficult.
Yeah. Right. So just being able to audit that, I think, is where it makes sense. Really, I wouldn't look at bringing someone in house for ads specifically until I'm probably spending at least $15,000 to $20,000 a month, maybe even closer to $40,000 a month.
Don't make sense. And well, look, here's the other part too. Like, we're going through this right now in our business. We're building out a complete microsite just for Google Ads. We're not even going to be sending them to the website. And that's a completely different conversation that some people are like, well, you should always run it there. It actually helps your SEO. And some people are like, well, you shouldn't. It doesn't help your SEO, and anywhere in between. The idea of an SEO website versus a Google Ads websites are actually different in how they want to operate, and they convert. Now you wouldn't be able to, would you be able to have an in-house Google Ads person also develop an entire website, a microsite or landing pages and all those things? So there's a lot more complexities than just, flipping a box on and off in Google, right? So I do want to transition though, in terms of, great, you've had these questions, you've had a deeper dive with your marketing agency, and some of the questions that you should be asking them in going into the choosing a new marketing agency. We also want to normally our podcast is like 60 minutes, give or take 15, usually probably like add 15 onto that. So we want to try to keep the shorter, like 30 to 40 minutes for y'all. So choosing a new marketing agency, and of course there's a lot of different questions that you can look at on here. So I'll leave this up here for a brief second. I'm not going to rapid fire off all the questions that I had, because I want to cover some of these specifically, right? And looking at that, one of the biggest ones is, how do I know that you're a good marketing company? What should a person be looking for when they choose a new marketing company?
I mean, number one, do you work in our industry? A lot of times we run into contractors that have been working with someone who is just a local marketing company. And that's great because they know the area. But if they have to relearn your industry and then relearn who it is that you're trying to market to, and what the communication strategy needs to be to attract this type of customer back to your business, that's going to take time. And missing out on 3 to 4 months worth of actual capable marketing activities because they're trying to learn your industry, that's a huge missed opportunity. So that's point number one. From there, have you had success with companies in our industry? What does that look like? What are the companies that you've worked with in my area potentially? I would want to know that, whether or not you do work with companies that are right down the street from me or across town from me. I wouldn't shy away from someone who works with someone else in your city, but just be very clear on what those objectives are, and making sure that you're not competing whether it's with dollars on Google ads, whether it's with, GMB rankings with someone that's like right across the street from you. So asking those clarifying questions ahead of time is a really big deal. The other one, who owns the stuff? And I think I'll let you chat a little bit about this, because you just had this happen this week with one of our new clients.
Yeah. And I got a couple other questions to follow up with you on that and the ownership, but really, I'm going to try to rein in my frustration here. And there are some certain companies out there. I'm not going to name names or rhyme any type of insect with it. There you go. There's one of them. So this happens, and it happens quite a bit, and it's frustrating that we have to say this. And there's two sides of the conversation. It's like, okay, well, should have read the agreement to know what you have and what you don't have. But the other side of the coin is, well, if you're paying somebody to build a website and do all this work, it's yours. It's your data. It's your information. It's your website. It's your Google Analytics. It's your Google Ads account. And so what's happened, and we've seen this before, it's happening less, I find, as this message is starting to get a little bit more louder and out there. I'm seeing it less and less, but it still happens, right? Now,
Yep.
Some marketing companies will create a Google Ads account for you, for example. That happens. We've done it before. Here's what they shouldn't do. When they ask you for access, or when you ask them for access, rather, if the marketing company says no, might be a little bit of a red flag. If you ask them to transfer ownership, even after they create it, and they say no, might be a little bit of a red flag. When you build a website, who owns it? Well, if they don't say you, might be a little bit of a red flag. Hey, what happens, marketing company, if we decide to part our ways? What happens to my website? Do they say, well, it goes bye-bye, or do they give you the admin rights and you can move it over to whatever hosting you want, or do they keep it on their hosting and for a small nominal fee, keep it on their hosting? By the way, hosting, if they're saying $250 a month for hosting and that's it, nothing else involved in that, run far away, because it doesn't cost $250 a month for hosting. So those are some of the things that you should be asking in terms of the content creation. Who owns the intellectual property rights, in a sense, of the actual website? Now, there's a difference on the intellectual property of what the marketing company's doing from the SEO side of things, the Google Ads side of things, but there's also your data and your information. Even in Google Ads, the proprietary information in the Google Ads account. Okay, I understand some of that. Well, maybe transfer the data over to a new ads account after the fact, if that's one of those instances, right? So there's varying levels that you can get into, but by and large, you need to be owning your own shit. Because what happens is, after a year or 2 or 3, let's just use 2 years, for example, you decide to leave that marketing company. You've been investing tens of thousands of dollars into Google Ads, and all of a sudden, your ad data is gone. You just started from scratch, scratch. Everything brand new, all over again. Like, that could be devastating to some businesses. Website, SEO, your domain, for that matter too. When you build up your domain authority in your ranking with inside of that, and if you don't even own your domain, but that doesn't happen very often anymore. Sometimes it does, but if you don't even own your domain, that goes bye-bye, right? Seen that happen. Luckily, it was a newer domain, so there really wasn't much authority built up on that. Same thing with the website. If you move and you have a new company build your entire website, sometimes rankings can go down, and they will take a while to go back up. Sometimes they only go down a little bit and bounce right back up right after, depending on the marketing company, right? And so these are some of these things you want to make sure that you're protecting your own data that you've invested into your business.
No, that's exactly it. You just paid a company, for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, whatever the time frame is, to have all of that work that's been done just disappear and essentially be for naught. It's heartbreaking for us as, a company that actually gives a shit about people and gives a shit about contractors. And every client that we've had to offboard for a variety of different reasons, whether they sold or they wanted to take it in a different direction, or they brought on a new business partner, whatever the case is, we've had everyone under the sun. We've had people leave us because they were unhappy with the communication that we were delivering. And we've made mistakes, we've corrected it, and we've continued to get better ourselves. But the reality is that every person that has walked out the door from us, we've made sure that to hand it off in the right way. And in a few cases, we've had people come right back to us, some as soon as 2 weeks after they said they were done, simply because of how we handled that process. Are we salty about it? Sure. Are we upset about it? Yes. Are we making changes to make it better? Always. Um, but the idea that you would hold back someone's information because you felt that way is just beyond me. I don't understand it. I don't know why companies would want to do that to people and intentionally harm their reputation online. Um, that's their livelihood. That's how they pay their people. That's how they pay their families. And feed their families. Yeah, I don't get it. It's
Blows my mind.
frustrating.
Blows my
Yeah.
mind. Absolutely blows my mind. So one last question, and then we can get into moving on that. And because I want to talk about building a strong working relationship with your marketing agency. I think a lot of times
Hmm.
people leave too soon. And
Right.
what we just talked about, regardless if you own it or you don't, you're restarting every year, and it's not a good way to do it. But
Correct.
one other question that I think somebody should be asking, in addition to what we've already mentioned, is okay. Well, how do you measure the success of my digital marketing campaigns? How do you measure the success of my SEO? How do you measure the success of my website? How do you measure the success of my Google ads?
Well, and this is where it's important to get really clear with the company that you're working with, right? Like if you're on Service Titan, do they have a login to your Service Titan? Are they looking at the campaigns? Is their call tracking set up? How are they measuring whether or not they're doing well? Because we've audited other companies' campaigns before, and it says that they got 50 conversions last week. But then when we look at their Service Titan, or we look at their House Call Pro, or they look at their Sarah, it's not translating to book calls. So something's missing there. And if that communication isn't very, very, very clear, then how is it that you're supposed to see success with them? Right. So getting it set up the right way and being very clear with the new marketing company, like, hey, how do you choose to measure success on your campaigns? And if you get an answer back of anything short of jobs on your board, then why would you want to work with them? Right. They need their marketing metrics in order to line up with your cost per book call, your cost per job, Ryan. That's it. And you need to make sure that those numbers match up. And then as an HVAC owner or as a plumbing owner, home service business owner, you need to be auditing your operations to make sure that your front end staff are getting those jobs on the board when the leads are presented to you.
No, 100%. And even like, so here's the other thing too, is like and we've talked about this a few times on our podcast with a few different guests, is even if they're sending 50 leads, good leads, qualified leads, but they're not booked on the board. Another thing would be to say, hey, would you be able to call me out on my operational inefficiencies? Right?
Right.
Because that is a thing, right? And so sometimes the marketing companies throw hands in like, I sent 100 leads. What the fuck? They're not booking this shit. Okay, well, you complain about it in your digital marketing agency groups, but you actually have a tough conversation with the business owner about those sorts of things and point them
Right.
in the right direction, right? I think that's also a pivotal point as well, in terms of having that dialogue, that conversation back and forth, right? Communication tends to be generally one-sided, where conversation is a two-way street, and it goes back and forth, and having conversations around that.
Right. Well, and especially when you hire your first CSR, your first dispatcher, um, it's really relieving to get that off your plate, to no longer be worried about it. Someone else is taking care of it. But if you're not measuring their performance, how is it that you're going to be able to improve it?
Mhm.
Right. And this was a conversation we had with one of our clients today. He hired a CSR this year. It was his first one. He was super excited about it. Saw a whole bunch of improvements happening within the business, got caught up in that. We had our call today and I asked him point blank, I'm like, how are you measuring her success? And he said, I'm not. I have nothing. I don't even know where to start. And so we had a conversation around that. And it can be something as simple as ticks on a sheet. It doesn't have to be overly complicated if you don't want it to be. Obviously, it's even better to have it digitally so you can access it wherever you are. But to start with something and then build up from there is incredibly important. So making sure that you're auditing your process to make sure that internally we're taking fully advantage of every single opportunity that we get, whether that's in the CSR answering the phone, dispatcher, booking the calls onto the board and assigning the right technician to the call, technicians making sure that they're selling the right jobs and being able to present opportunities there, converting into memberships, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many areas of opportunity that we can work on and improve and make micro improvements in our business to end up with a greater result on the back end.
No, I love that. So, all right. Building a strong working relationship. So now that you've had the conversations of auditing your marketing company, you've asked the questions for new marketing companies, building a working relationship together. Now, there's a few different ways that can go. Obviously, this is one of them. We'll extrapolate. We'll talk more about this information, as we go. So establishing clear goals and expectations is one. So walk us through establishing some clear goals and expectations with a marketing company now that you've chosen one.
Right. So it starts with revenue, right? What's the revenue goal? Where is it that you want to get to by the end of the year? Where is it that you want to get to by the first quarter, half year, et cetera? Breaking that number down, now we can start to extrapolate out, okay, well, if we want this much in sales, well, how many leads is that going to take in order to hit that much? And we can start to build out a plan for how we're going to get there. Is it going to all come from SEO? Are we going to need Google ads? Are we going to need Yelp ads? Are we going to need Facebook ads? What are you doing offline as well in terms of radio, TV, et cetera? There's so many different avenues that you can go to start to bring in leads into the business. You need to make sure that there is a plan in place in order to get to the amount of calls that you want. To put out an arbitrary number of, oh, well, we want to hit 3 million this year in sales, but you don't know how many calls that's going to take, I think is a very inefficient way of going about it. Right now, the marketing company can help you break that down. We certainly do that with clients, or we'll just log into their House Call Pro or their Sarah or their Service Titan to be able to break down their numbers to know how many leads we need to bring them based on the actual data. It's one of the things that we've found as we've grown as a company is, they might feel like their average ticket is $1,200, but the data says it's $868. And now that's going to very much change how many calls we need to bring into the business. So using data to make decisions is incredibly important.
Right. And so now that you have that, that data, this also goes into regular review meetings, right? And looking at regular review meetings, but also looking at, long-term partnership versus short-term gains. And so when I look back to these regular review meetings, I feel like there could probably be a difference in the level of meeting that you have depending on A, the season, B, frequency. So what would you say to somebody now that they've, trying to work together with this marketing agency to have a frequency, to have a cadence with their meetings?
Yeah. First and foremost, as an owner, you need to prioritize it. The amount of times that we've had to call clients out because they're not showing up to those regular monthly meetings. It does happen all the time. And hey, look, I get it. Stuff happens. Stuff comes up in the business. Like, we come to add to business, not take away from it. So if you've got to go run the call, if you've got to have an important conversation with a technician, that's fine. Do that and make sure that you're still prioritizing your marketing calls. It's an incredibly important part of your business and can be a huge waste of money if it goes unmonitored, just like your CSRs, right? If you're not monitoring their performance, it's a huge waste of money. It potentially could be a huge waste of money for your business. So making sure that you're staying on top of it is incredibly important. From there, you want to make sure that it's productive. So what's being talked about in that meeting? It should be what happened last month, right? What work was done. I know Tony just said that, proof that work is getting done, right? So showing, hey, here's the blogs that we posted this month. Here's the citations we built. Here's the backlinks that were added, whatever it was. What is the work that's being done? Here's the ads that we put out. Here's the leads that we generated. And then based on what's in your CRM, here's how many calls were generated. Here's the sales that were provided, right? It's fun for us to be able to text a client and say, hey, we just saw in your Service Titan that you just had your biggest month ever. That's really exciting. Like, super pumped for you and your team. What are you doing to celebrate? It's a different level of conversation. And that's just a quick text message. That's not even our monthly review call. But giving your marketing company access to these things allows them to have different conversations with you. So that now we can talk about revenue and goals. And are we staying on track? Are we off track? What are we going to adjust this next month to continue to move forward?
I like that. And thank you for referencing Tony's comment as well. I was going to mention about the work that is being done in the proof. And look, sometimes that could be bogged down in the mundane, but sometimes you need to, to build that trust, trust is that big word, especially in the digital marketing agency world, because guess what it takes to become a digital marketing expert? Laptop and internet connection. You probably don't even need a laptop, probably just a phone, right? I'm like
Right.
digital marketing expert. And so, asking and even going back to, what's your acumen? What's your history?
Right.
Why are you doing your business? Do you have business experience, right? And there are some young individuals in the digital marketing sphere that are absolutely fucking brilliant when it comes to running a digital marketing agency. So don't let age hold that back either. So,
Correct.
but I will touch base, Tony, on your second part about getting some ROI, because I believe that's a great topic for, a little bit later on. And so looking at now, we've had the regular review meetings. We've talked about the long-term partnership versus short-term gains. I believe that we've even touched on benefits of building a long-term relationship, but I still wouldn't mind how, I mean, I might take this one here on this in the building the benefits of building a long-term relationship. And here's what this allows for a long-term relationship is it goes back to what we talked about earlier when you have to reset your data if you're to leave. If you think about that every year, if you decide, I'm going to change, I'm going to change, I'm going to change, looking for that silver bullet, you're always going to be constantly looking for that magic solution, and it's never going to end out well if you're constantly always having that change, because now you switch to another marketing company. And guess what? They have to relearn you. They have to relearn your business. They have to relearn it. Now, there's things that you can do to compress some of that by giving them assets and documents and information that they need. And if the previous marketing company was doing a good job leveraging some of that data as well that they have. But when you build this long-term relationship with them, it almost becomes an extension of your business and an arm of your business. And a lot of times people say, well, I hired a digital marketing agency. They're going to do what they need to do. But that's actually incorrect. You need to have this dialogue with them to build a long-term relationship. You need to have a cadence with them to build a long-term relationship. It is a part of your business. It is not a set it and forget it aspect. And that's what building a long-term relationship does for you, because as you build this long-term relationship, guess what happens to the cadence? It doesn't have to be as much, because they know you, they know your business, and they know what needs to happen and when.
Correct.
All right. So, how can consistent evolving strategies yield better value over time? I think we've already covered that.
Yeah, you just hit on that exactly. When they know who you are and what you're all about and who it is that you're trying to reach, it's so much easier to have a real conversation around that.
Yep, and calling each other out, right? So,
Yeah.
obviously, assessing the potential for growth and scalability with your marketing partner. Now, some businesses um, are happy being a $3, $5, $10 million per year business. Some businesses are happy being one man in a truck, and some businesses want to go beyond that 10 million and be a $50 million per year business. And all marketing agencies aren't created equal. There are some that
Hmm.
will be beneficial for those guys that are by themselves in their vehicle. Although one would argue they don't really need much marketing. Some are going to be beneficial for the $3 to $10 million, and some are going to be beneficial and better for the $50 million per year business. So, looking at the scalability with your marketing partner, how would you assess that? If you're an HVAC business owner looking at having a conversation with a marketing company, what would you be looking for?
I would want to know what is the biggest company that you're working with. How much sales did they do last year? How big was their team? What was the working relationship like? What did you start with them? If if you say, well, our biggest business is a $10 million a year business, well, what did they do last year? 12 million. That's probably not a good place to start. So having just some upfront conversations with them and figuring out like, well, where is it that you can take me? Have you worked like with businesses like me in the past, and how have you helped them grow? I think that is just an honest and real conversation. Now, just because someone has only ever worked with a $1 million a year business doesn't mean that they can't work with a 3 or a 5 or a $10 million a year business. I think the strategy needs to change. I think the implementation needs to change. Doesn't mean they're not capable of it, but it just means having an honest conversation up front, and then you being okay with being that little bit of a test dummy as the HVAC company or the plumbing company who's willing to take that risk with them. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, ideally, you're getting a discount for that as well, and you're not paying the same for that top line company that might only work with $50 million a year companies. And then I mean, as you hit to 50 and like we talked about earlier, in terms of bringing it in house, I think that's the point where you are looking at bringing more of your marketing in house, and maybe it makes sense to keep this person on as a retainer for consultation. and now they're helping you with training your own internal marketing team as well. I think that's a realistic possibility too.
Lots of ways that I can go once you get to the size to be able to afford, the right people and the experts to be able to do it, right?
Correct.
All right, tools and resources for monitoring and analyzing marketing efforts, along with how to stay informed about the latest digital marketing trends and techniques. Let's lump that all together into one.
Here's a fun one. So we've been testing out a couple different tools, Searchlight being one of them, which I'm sure many of you have seen different posts from a variety of different people. If you're not following their blog and their newsletter, I highly recommend it. We'll see if we can throw that in the show notes for after. Their newsletter is fantastic because it's pulling in analytical data that's looking at LSA, that's looking at PPC, it's looking at Google Ads or SEO to compare them and see what the return on investment is. And so we are running this for a handful of clients right now to test it out and see what works and what doesn't. And it's really fun when you see that your client got a 10x return in October on their Google ad spend, and another 7x return in November, right? So being able to look at that data is it's fun, it's interesting, it's intriguing. It can also point out some inefficiencies in terms of booking, in terms of lead quality potentially, and it gives us the opportunity to make data-driven decisions on actual returns going back to the business.
Circling back to Tony's comment, full circle return on investment. One of the things that I like about something like Searchlight is the return on ad spend potential and return on ad spend closed. So it actually will show you that's the return on ad spend potential is how good is my marketing company actually doing it, sending me the leads, sending me the right qualified individuals that have went out and I've done whatever you need to do to be able to get there. Return on ad spend closed is what's booked on the job and on the board in the profit into Service Titan or House Call Pro, and then you can actually see where the inefficiencies are. If your return on ad spend closed is really high and close to your return on ad spend potential, you've got a sound operational house. If it's completely off the mark, potential operation shortfalls or just shitty quality of leads that might be coming through. And so it gives the data to be able to move forward with it. And data is the new, that's where everybody's moving, is how can I analyze my data to be able to do what I need to do to get greater efficiencies within that.
Correct. And so for those of you that don't know what this is, so Searchlight will essentially enable you to connect your front end leads that are coming into your business through Google Business Profile, through Google Ads, through your SEO, and just through your website in general. Collect all those leads into one place, be able to connect the dots between that and your Service Titan or your House Call Pro, and then be able to spit out the numbers at the end in terms of how much did you actually close off of each of those services. So it's a really great tool to be able to analyze all those things. I know Chirp has a direct integration with them as well, and being able to analyze what is your return on your Chirp investment, and that's proving to be really, really high as well. So shout out to the guys from Chirp. But being able to connect all this data and provide actual returns back to your business is incredibly powerful and allows you to really analyze everything.
And their newsletter is fantastic as well. So moving out of Searchlight, if you're a business owner, and I get time is valuable, you don't necessarily want to become a digital marketing expert, but you want to stay up to date with some trends or some things that one can do in their business to assist their digital marketing agency with in really honing in on that partnership. What would be some resources or some things that you might say to a business owner to be able to study up on? HVAC success secrets revealed.
Yeah, the podcasts that are existing are a great tool because it's screen time, right? When you're driving in your car, being able to analyze some of the information that's out there is incredibly powerful. I mean, one of the reasons why we selfishly started the podcast was so that we could collect a lot of this information, be able to distill it down and give some actionable steps back to our clients. And we've done this time and time and again. The podcasts are one thing that I would definitely be checking out. Newsletters are another thing. I know Tommy Mello puts out a fantastic newsletter. Go back and check out that episode for that link. We'll see if we can pull it and add it to this as well. I've been getting his newsletters in my inbox, and they're fantastic. The newsletters that come out from Searchlight are fantastic. But being able to distill down information into bite-sized chunks that you can actually take action on it. Like, this is the thing. If you are not implementing fast enough in your business, you're going to fail. If your marketing company is not implementing fast enough in their business, they could fail for you as well. And so asking the question of what is it that you're doing to innovate? What is it that you're doing to continue to get better given the changing technologies that exist right now? I know AI is a big thing. How are you leveraging AI and making some of your decisions in your company? And if they're just using it to write blog posts for you, like, I'm sorry, that's useless. There's so many ways that you can apply AI to your business, and your marketing company can be applying it to your business. If they're not leveraging it in high impact ways, like, you're really missing out and you're falling further behind.
No, makes sense. And I mean, AI is a completely different conversation and topic for another day. And I don't think we really have the time to get into AI and what it can and can't do for any business, really, for that matter. And there's been some other great podcast guests that we've had on our show for that. So as we wrap up here, Evan, is there anything that you think we should have covered but we didn't cover?
Contact On Purpose Media at onpurposemedia.ca. No, I think the first step is look, if you're unsure of whether or not your current company is hitting the mark, are you getting a second opinion? Are you getting another company to come in and audit your stuff? And by the way, like, I could poke holes in just about anyone's strategy. That's the reality. I could find $1,000 in missed ad spend or wasted ad spend in just about every ad account. It's possible. So are you getting that second opinion to replace your current company? Or are you getting that second opinion so you have more information, so you can have more honest conversations with your marketing company and then see what it is that you want to do? I think that's important as well. Now's the time of year to do it. Get a marketing analysis done. You can check out our link there on purposemedia.ca, marketing/marketing-analysis to be able to get that analysis done. But, it's an opportunity to get some fresh eyes on your digital presence, how it is that you're showing up, and what areas of opportunity are not being taken advantage of right now.
Going to set it better myself.
Tony will give you a call, bud.
Yeah. So reach back out, Tony. Let's have another conversation. So, so here's the essence. Like, we've covered a lot of ground here today, and I think we've given a lot of information to be able to put you in to the right seat or the right frame of mind to be able to look at these sorts of things and either audit your current company or make a switch to a new one, right? Obviously, we would like to earn your business on purposemedia.ca to have that conversation first and foremost. But there's other great companies that are out there to be able to do that. And looking at what we've covered here today, and I know there was a lot of information, take a couple nuggets, take a couple things that you can actually implement into your business to be able to make the change for the better on your digital marketing front, and you'll be thankful for the results that you're going to have after. So that's all I got. That's all you got. Then I guess until next time.
Cheers.
If you like what you heard today, you can hit us up and get a marketing analysis done on your business to know if you're on pace or if you're off pace. Head on to the link that's on your screen on purposemedia.ca/marketing-analysis. Book a time with us, and we'll go over and give you all of the details. No obligations, by the way, on whether your marketing is on point or whether it's not. Of course, we also want to see you on our socials. We got our Facebook, we got our Instagram, we got our Threads, we got our TikTok. Give us a follow.